So, hello everybody, and welcome to this episode 2 of season 3 of A Conversation with Cometan. I'm really excited today to be joined by Octavio Chon, who is a person who I've been wanting to speak to for a while because I'll let him introduce himself, but he's into astrobiology, astrotheology, and all the things that we all the things that are interesting to us on this channel and are relevant to astronism. This is just going to be sort of an informal conversation as usual, and we'll see where the conversation goes. But hi, Octavio.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe because I know that you're in obviously your main language is obviously Spanish, so we'll have to give you a little bit of leeway, but just give us an introduction to you.
Well, first, thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. And well, my name is Octavio Chon, as you said. I'm a philosopher, I'm a professor at the University of Lima in English, and Universidad Nacional Mayor de San Marcos. They are both main universities in Peru. And part of my dedication is philosophy of astrobiology. I'm the president of the Peruvian Association of Astrobiology here in Peru, and we make a lot of research. We make scientific outreach. We go to schools, we make seminars, congress, all about it. And in my particular case, as you said, I'm into astrobiology, astrobioethics, epistemology of astrobiology, and time to time I talk about astrotheology, but my main topic is epistemology, philosophy of astrobiology.
Brilliant. That's fantastic, and something that my main area of interest and where I sort of study is astronism, so space religion, astrotheology, and things like that. So it's really great for me to delve into this side of things because I'm very much interested in it. But a question that I tend to ask every guest is sort of, how did you first get into space? How did you sort of first get these interest in space? So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, from always I was wondering if we are alone in the universe, right? And the first thing I get familiar it was ufology.
Yeah.
And well, because when I was a child, not a solo child, but yes, I was watching these TV series, documentaries,
Yeah.
and so on. They're talking about extraterrestrial life. But eventually, when I was growing up, getting closer more to the academic world, I went to college, and that I was more familiar with the academic perspective of
Yeah.
studying life in the universe, so astrobiology. I left my curiosity of ufology, and I became more philosophy of astrobiology. And why philosophy? Why not from the chemistry? Why not biology? Because, as you see, philosophy gives you a broader perspective of things, not a specific point of view. Of, well, science is like you have a view from the tree itself.
Yes.
Each discipline studies a tree.
Yes.
Philosophy gives you the forest.
Forest. Yeah.
So I wanted to make these connections that the science per se it didn't give you. That's why I went to philosophy and astrobiology.
Brilliant. Yeah. And so obviously you're interested in following things that are taking place in like the space community. So things like Elon Musk, and maybe you're watching him with kind of interest, maybe, or do you focus more on sort of what governments are doing in the space area? Are you interested in that, or are you more interested in the actual projects that are specifically, finding life, or are you more general, would you say?
Well, as a philosopher, I'm interested first in the disciplinary structure of astrobiology itself as a new discipline,
Yeah.
how it, the origins of astrobiology, how it evolves, how people see astrobiology. Some people see it as a discipline, scientific.
Yeah.
Others, they don't think astrobiology is a discipline. And I'm curious about how the methodology involved in astrobiology can, how we say, affect the way we see things. Because in this particular case, astrobiology, it not only talks about biology, chemistry, or that, it gets wider. It gets to natural sciences, social sciences, religion, and other field of knowledge. And that's my first curiosity for astrobiology. Then, thinking about life in the universe, what's our position in the cosmos? Are we alone or we are not? What would happen if we find life in other planets? That would change religion as we see it. For example, I think that religion will get adapt. We will get to adapt it, as it did with the perspective when we before we thought that the Earth was the center of the universe. Now we don't think like that. Something similar with the life. Right now we are living in a bio-geocentric perspective of looking at the space because we don't know other perspective. We know life on Earth, and from here to other planets, trying to find a kind of life similar to the one we have here. But what if we are looking at different form of life and we don't know yet because we don't have any other reference, no more reference for us. So astrobiology gives you the opportunity to go from the biogeocentric perspective to the astrobiocentric perspective. One from the life Earth-centered
Yes.
to another one to the life cosmocentric perspective, for say.
Well, yeah, because in the movement that I founded, which is called Astronism, our official sort of worldview, if you will, is cosmocentrism. So we see, we take the cosmos as, and I call it the astronomical world. So the world above us, that is the most important thing to us. So understanding that, exploring that. In all of our beliefs, the cosmos plays a central role, whereas you could say in other religions, maybe the earth plays a bigger role, or a particular person or a particular idea plays the main role. But for us, it's the cosmocentric perspective that has really making us distinguished from other groups, really. So I understand where you're coming from with that. A question I have for you is, so you began to get involved with sort of studying astrobiology, trying to sort of understand the structures of the discipline. How did that change your perspective, your sort of maybe religious and philosophical views? Have you now become yourself more sort of cosmocentric, would you say, because you've studied astrobiology, or were you already like that anyway from sort of being young? Were you already sort of thinking about space as the center of things?
Well, I think that this is getting in context. There is a global scenario.
Yeah.
Worldwide, we are having more problem issues interconnected, like global warming,
Yeah.
for example, and it requires for us academics to give a treatment more complex, more interconnected.
Yeah.
That means that, for example, global warming problem is not going to be solved only by entrepreneurs, only by biologists, or even the COVID-19 right now. It's not going to be solved only by vaccination. You need anthropologists, you need politicians, you need etc. Same scenario, more or less, astrobiology. You need the participation of different disciplines working, co-working, making making strategies areas that we are finding day per day, week per week, and so on.
Yeah.
So, what's the influence that this is having for me? Well, let's think that at the technological level, with the evidence, we don't have evidence yet of life in the universe. So we only can think, pondering about what would be the future place, a futuristic scenario, like a mental experiment. What's gonna be our place in the universe once we find life in the other planets?
Yes.
And what I see is that an interesting thing of philosophy is that it goes further, even if you don't have evidence. It goes further and goes ahead our time many times. And in that sense, I think that astrobiology will give us a new perspective, even the sense of life, a potential new sense of life for us, because I think that you don't have evidence per se, only evidence. You need a narrative.
Yes.
You need storytelling, per se.
Yes.
You need something to give it sense. So, philosophy of astrobiology gives you that possibility of sense once you find this evidence. Of course, it's not like a pondering or a theory without any scientific knowledge. We are grounded on what we have, but from what we have, the evidence right now, we think in the future.
Yes.
We think about what it would be. So it's not just like imagination, like just science fiction without any proofs. We are making this pondering using the information we have till now. And for philosophy of astrobiology, it's the same. It's the same. In general, for philosophy of science, you need to make philosophy of a science with the information you have now.
Yes.
And think about what it's going to be. Okay, some people may say, "Oh, we don't have life, evidence of life. Why are you talking about life in the universe?" Well, this is like a puzzle. Science is like a puzzle. Maybe you are missing a piece, but the piece, it gives you, the missing piece, this little hole in the puzzle gives you the idea that there must be something.
Yes.
So in a logical way, there must be something. And you go for it because you have at least some clue, some references of some planet that might be hosting life. You have a reason to think, seriously to think, that we are not alone in the universe at a philosophical level.
And what's interesting to me is I've got sort of three questions really. The first one, I'll let you answer them actually one by one, but I have got three questions in my mind as you've been speaking. So the first one is, I know you said we've not got any evidence, but you must believe that there is life in the universe, or else you wouldn't have got into this field maybe. So do you think that kind of all astrobiologists kind of working on the assumption that there is life in the universe in a way? Because would they get involved in the field otherwise? Would you do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm trying to get at? And
Well,
do you believe there is? Do you believe
that reminds me Karl Popper.
Yeah.
You hear that philosopher, he said that metaphysics is not all away from science. You have some pieces of metaphysics in science itself, making hypotheses. For example, you don't have the evidence in hand you are making the hypothesis, but you have some kind of hinge, you have some kind of thought about it. And in my case, of course, I recognize that this is a personal belief.
Yes.
A personal belief that we might not be alone in the universe. Most probably there is microbial life, for example, under the Mars surface,
Yeah.
and that's the most logical way I see it. That's how I see it, and but that's a personal perspective.
Yes.
Me, like a philosopher of science, I have to follow the rules, to
Yeah.
say so, and wait for the evidence. So I cannot say, okay, we are not alone in the universe, and we can make a astrobiocentric paradigm right now. No, no, we have to wait. We have to be patient. We have to be careful with pseudoscience. Also,
Yeah.
we have to be very critic about it, and that will give us better results.
And how far away do you think we are from discovering? I know it might be quite difficult for you to say, or for you to, you know, predict how far
You
away we
know,
are. But as an insider, as a person who's sort of involved in the field, how far away do you think we are? Or is it really far in the future still, or is it within mine or your lifetime? Do you think that we will find some kind of life? Do you think?
well, you see, that's a good thing about being a philosopher. I'm not a scientist per se.
Mm.
As a philosopher, I can make this speculation about
Yes.
the future of when or what is going to happen, no? Right? And a day to some years, a decade,
Mm.
we don't know. But as a philosopher, I can say it. But once we get it, we will have a big change in the way we think our place in the universe. Yes, but I'm not so optimistic yet because I think it's going to be more or less like the COVID-19. For example, you see the nations, they weren't helping each other as they should.
Mm. Yes.
I think that discovering life in the universe is going to be a big, amazing discovery. Um, Many thoughts about it at the beginning, but as the time goes past, we might return to our traditional acts like egoism.
Mm.
Um, the moral, our moral, is not gonna be uh, deeply transformed by it. By it. So I think that even if we have the discovery, technologically, evidence of life in the universe, using our technology to detect it in other places, uh, the moral standing for us, it probably not gonna be changing a lot.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you should say that, because that's one of my main when I'm doing my lectures, and when I'm sort of promoting what I believe, that's one of my main obstacles I find is trying to, one of my main struggles is to try and get people to see that, trying to show that space actually does affect them, and space is important, outer space, and also life on other planets it is important, and trying to kind of close that gap, really, because I think a lot of people tend to think that space doesn't affect them. It's so far away. It seems so far away from our lives down here on the ground. And people, like you're right. People continue to go on with their lives, even if amazing discoveries are made. What I want to try and do with my type of work is to try and make it important to people, try and show people why it's important, and that you know and this is why I've kind of focused on the spirituality side of space.
Yes,
I've Yeah, that's
astrotheology
right.
goes.
Yeah, making making it relevant to people's lives. Trying to show a narrative or a story about why it's important. And I think the work that you're doing in terms of the philosophy of astrobiology is really important in that area, to try and show people that story, that narrative, why this is important, why you're doing the work you are. And I hope that actually doesn't happen. I hope that when we do find I hope that when we do find life on other planets, that there is a shift in people's thinking, even if it's just a proportion of people. I hope that there is a shift and a change, and I hope that they become more cosmocentric and realize that we aren't the only ones here, and that in my belief, that we are sharing the universe with lots of other species that could become just as intelligent as we are, if not more intelligent than we are. Two other things that I wanted to just to explore with you was...
Yes, I would say, for example, how do we pretend to be a multiplanetary species if we are not feeling ourselves as an authentic planetary species?
Yeah, 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 you're right.
So that's
Definitely.
a interesting point.
Yeah,
We are trying to be interplanetary species,
yeah,
but we are not yet. We are not see ourselves as a planetary. Even we can see the whole planet, and we live in one only planet. We share the same planet, but we are not behaving as not as one, but as a planetary citizen.
I think part of that is maybe maybe part of it is people's religious beliefs to some degree, because obviously in Christianity, the belief is that the earth was made for us, and that, you know, we are the most important species because we are God's people, and we are, you know, we are, the planet belongs to us. And I think that that's
Yes,
definitely an undertone in Christian literature and things. You know, this is yours, but it's also ours to look after. And there's like this idea of stewardship and things like that. But you're right. I think that if we want to become a multiplanetary species, we need to become first a sort of, you could say, custodian or something of this planet, a proper custodian, looking after it better. And there's no point, is there, in going to other planets and then not looking after those and moving on to the next one or to the next one.
avoiding our problems.
Yeah, and taking our problems with us, really, because that's all we were doing, isn't it? I mean, if we go to Mars and we take the same type of philosophy, sort of this like egoistic and sort of anthropocentric type of philosophy with us, we're going to face the same kind of problems, aren't we? Because we're just, you know, same problems, different place, you know.
Yes, yeah, right. Because we don't get ourselves as greater if we don't broaden our subjective perspective.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if you go to other planets, if you don't grow as a person,
Yeah.
then you will be messing around with the other places where you go. And I think that sometimes we as a humanity, we have this technology, it goes very fast, new enhancement for technology, new cell phones, laptops, all the internet, it all goes fast. We evolve more fast in a technological level than in a moral level.
Yes. Yeah.
So some people think that they might think that if we go more faster in technology, we'll get better as human beings.
Yeah.
But that's not right.
Yeah.
Science, it's a tool. It's a tool to get to something, to get some answers.
Yes.
But not always. It's a guarantee that it's gonna improve your quality as a human being.
Yeah.
So
That's
what gives you that improvement? What is the place where you can have this opportunity to improve yourself in a cosmic perspective? Astrobioethics.
yes.
That's
Definitely.
a pondering about life in the universe in a moral perspective.
Yes.
So, for example, are we the guardians of life in the universe?
Mm.
Are we a multiplanetary species? Are we becoming into it? That kind of pondering is a matter of astrobioethics, and that's why I studied. I studied that field, and yes, we have the political view, social view, legal view, because you might have the legal instrument to do things, but not always legal equals to moral.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
What happens if, in the hypothetical scenario that, for example, SpaceX goes to Mars, lands on Mars, and accidentally uh, eliminates the local life there? Who's gonna pay?
Yeah, yeah.
Who's protecting the potential life on Mars?
Mm,
And are we willing to make some planetary parks in Mars, for example,
yeah.
places where we don't touch because it might be life or potential life or scientific interest for life? And what would happen if, for example, China goes to Mars and says, this is an interesting place for us because of the how you call it in English, the minery, no,
Resource,
the oh,
resources.
resources, yes, and we take place here. This is our place.
Yes.
Is that possible? Well, you have the space treaty. Space treaty
Yeah.
says you cannot appropriation of a place. You cannot do that. But what if a powerful country it does it?
Doesn't
I mean,
matter.
doesn't matter.
They'll do it anyway.
Other thing for pondering is, okay, you may have, like we have an United Nations on Earth, you might have a United Nations of space. Okay, what about the countries like mine, for example, Peru? They don't have developed space agency. Do we have a voice in those decisions of the United Nations of Space? Are we, the developing countries, being considered in the taking decisions up?
No, because it's politics, isn't it? And it's people wanting to retain on their power, including my own country that I'm sat in right now, who wants to retain the power that we've had for a couple of 100 years now.
Yeah.
And,
And for
yeah,
example, if you are in a space agency and you invest a lot of money and time and you go to Mars, you will feel the right to claim this place is gonna be mine. I will manage this place. Okay, but what about the space treaty?
yeah, yeah, you're
What about
right.
the voice of the developing countries? In the United Nations on Earth right now, you see that there are some voices more powerful than others.
Yeah,
Are we going to repeat the same scenarios out there? So that's why I think I'm not very optimistic about once we find life, for example, microbial life, because it's different if we think about finding microbial life than finding or detecting intelligence life. Those are both different scenarios. And even different is if we make contact.
yeah,
So we have three scenarios: microbial scenario, uh, identifying intelligence life, and the last one, making contact.
yes,
Different scenarios, different results, different behavior for us. Is that worth willing? Is it worth it to make a militarization of space in the last scenario? For example, is a white elephant, maybe?
yeah. I think,
Yeah, well, many questions arises.
and this is why we need what you're doing, but also space philosophy in general. This is again why I felt, I've been involved with this. I'm 23 now, and I've been involved with space since I was 15 years old, and I've always pondered these types of questions. And there's definitely people in the field, but it doesn't seem to be on the forefront of what people in philosophy are considering. So that's what I want to try and do. I want to try to improve awareness of these types of questions and begin to answer them. These questions that we're asking will probably take decades, if not centuries, to try to come to some answers on, if ever. But also, as well, another concern is human rights, because that's something that I'm very passionate about. That's what I'm doing my PhD in right now is human rights. And, countries like China going to outer space is worrying for me, because I think, are they just going to take, their human rights record with them? Are they just going to, continue to persecute people or treat people badly on other planets? That's a huge concern for me. And yeah, you're right. I think that these things will happen if there isn't things in place now to try to solve them, to try to stop them from happening. Like you said, we could set up like a United Nations of space, but does that have the authority, or does that have the jurisdiction to stop some of these any country that is treating either the resources badly, using resources that are not maybe theirs, or abusing its citizens to try and get these resources as much, or forced labor, or whatever it may be. I think that the space treaty that we have is a good foundation, but I don't think it really sort of covers everything, and it needs definitely continual development. Do you not think so? I think it's sort of it's a good grounding document, but I think there's just so much more that it kind of leaves open. And definitely, we need people like yourself to, who are involved in this field and who understand the philosophy behind it, to try and help create something like that,
Because people is right now maybe amazed because of amused because of space travel and tourism, space tourism, and so on. But if we think about it a little bit deeply, this is going to get politics.
Yeah.
Eventually. So, and astrobiologics will have a very important role for this scenario. And what we can do now is making some transdisciplinary approach.
Yes.
If you're working in solutions, answers, it would be good in your team some people from social sciences, neurosciences, make communication about what points in common you can make for making a potential solution for these possible scenarios. So not just let it in this is going to be possible. No. Try to make the mental experiment. A scenario 1, what we should do. A scenario 2, a scenario 3, so on. Not just this is going to be possible, more or less. We will see what we can do. I was making a review of a paper just a few days ago. They were saying, yes, exploring space, what we can do, what we will gonna do in space will depend of the scenario we will find. But they never say, okay, make some scenarios at least.
Yeah.
Say, what if in this case, what if in this other case, and that. I think that way we will have we will have a better idea, more clue of what are we going to talk about it. And yes. That's the reason, one of the reasons you need a transdisciplinary approach.
Yes.
Because only from one discipline you will have one color, for example. But from different disciplines you will have multicolors.
Yeah.
You will have multi-perspective. And the most important, eventually you will have like a web strategy. And we need more strategy. We need more thinking in team, making good transdisciplinary teams. And that's one of the challenges for us. It's not a technological challenge.
No,
it's a perspective challenge.
Yeah.
How our mind, from a monodisciplinary perspective to a multi, inter, and transdisciplinary perspective. And as you see, we are talking about going in space, we are talking about finding life in the universe, but in the meanwhile, once we, better say, in the meantime, we try to find life in the universe. We are trying to find some answers for us,
Yes.
because trying to answer this question about are we alone in the universe is at the end trying to, to find the millennial question that was with humanity all the time. And that involves making some changes inside each people, each person. And yes, that's the way I see it. It's not just a journey. It's not just a journey for finding life outside. It's also a journey for finding us as a
Yes.
human being. So that
Yeah.
I think that's the one of the very most important things of astrobiology, astrobiotics, because as you are watching outside, losing yourself, trying to find answers, dedicating to research, at the same time you are making yourself bigger. You are
Yes.
not making yourself bigger thinking of yourself, thinking from your ego. You are making bigger yourself, trying to find solutions with other people, making connections, sharing perspectives, making it transdisciplinary.
Yes.
I think that's the turning point.
Definitely. And I love that idea about, exploring life, exploring the question of, life in the universe is also exploring ourselves and finding out more about ourselves. I really like that. I think that really kind of it highlights, the deeper philosophical endeavor that we have always been on, really, for since we began as a species. We've always I did my dissertation last year on sort of the origins of religion, but I looked at how astronomy was involved in the origins of religion and belief. And you can go back 40,000 years, and some of the earliest cave paintings were of the stars and of the moon and the sun and things like that. So we've always looked up and we've for answers about ourselves, and we've always wanted to trying to connect some way with whatever's beyond. I think because it is so out of our reach as well, I think humanity does like, we do like a bit of a challenge. We do like to try and overcome things. So this is like the frontier, isn't it? Some people have called it the next frontier or the great frontier. You could say, there's still areas on this planet that we've not discovered yet, deep in the oceans and things like that, but there's still that can't compare to how much out in space we have yet to discover. And that is a challenge, isn't it? That is something that we haven't done yet, and it's a frontier. It is self-discovery, really, isn't it? It's self-discovery. It's humanity wanting to understand itself, why we're here, what or who put us here, those types of questions, and also meaning of life as well. If we are alone in the universe, what is the meaning of humanity? What is the meaning of our individual lives? And if we are not alone, what is the meaning of our species? Why have we evolved the way we have? It makes you it's such a deeply philosophical question and an area that, but it just flabbergasts me how it just makes me so shocked how there's still little focus on these types of things in this sort of philosophical community. There's still there's not enough focus on it, to be honest, from my perspective. Not enough people talk about outer space and in relation to philosophy, in my opinion. And I don't know, it's what I want to try and change, I suppose. Hopefully I'll be able to do that, to make some progress, in that. But have you ever sort of, so obviously you have hypothesis about life, different kinds of life maybe in the universe. Have you ever actually sat back yourself and considered if there is no life? Because we do that in astronism. So we have this concept of desolation, so that there's nothing else, that it is just us. And have you yourself personally thought about that, and has that prospect of, you know, desolation and no life, has that come into your
Yeah, well, that's a scenario one.
yeah
First scenario, no life at all. We
yeah
are alone in the universe. That meaning we are the guardians of life in the
yeah
universe. And well, that's I think the more or the most easy way for us, because we go to Mars, we go to another moon, exomoon. There is no any ethical issue about finding other forms of life. We are only worrying about perpetuating life as we know it on Earth, maybe some kind of evolution in the forthcoming years and that. But if we are alone in the universe, we are the guardians of life in the universe. We are well, yes, that. And the only thing we should be worrying about is about ourselves,
yes
politics, economics, the same from here, but in a wider context. And yes, for me, it's the most simple scenario if we think about we are alone in the universe, as I said, because for example, if there is no life on Mars, we don't have to worry about a planetary protection park or something like that. Less stress for it, and it would be kind of sad also,
yeah
thinking we are alone in the universe. But at least we will have each other, and eventually spread life all over the galaxy, the cosmos. I don't know.
I wanted to get your perspective on panspermia. I wonder if you'll have heard of that, won't you? The
Yeah.
spam. What's your perspective on that theory? What do you think about that?
Well, it's a
Going back,
logical.
isn't it? It's kind of, you obviously, you're a lot of what you're doing is looking to the future. It's sort of looking at astrobiology in the future, maybe, and how we will find that. But kind of panspermia is going the other way, isn't it? It's trying to sort of look at the philosophical backstory, you could say,
Huh.
of astrobiology, isn't it?
Well,
So sorry.
that's maybe the second scenario. We are the extraterrestrials.
Yeah,
We came from some comet, Cometan.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
just joking, some meteorite or something like that, and we might be the extraterrestrial. We came from Mars when it was more habitable, and in that case we are the second origin, the second genesis. And if it's possible for us, it should be possible for other planets also. And in that scenario, sooner or later, thinking in perspective always. If humanity lives to other planets and to make the sufficient technology to detect evidence of life out there, eventually we'll find that life, that other panspermias also.
yeah.
Well, that's my thought. Yes.
Yeah. So in a way, you could say um, that it's certainly valid. It's certainly then possible that it could have that could have happened, and that kind of explains life here.
For us,
Yeah.
yes, it's very possible. Why not? Logically
Uh,
speaking, the
and
the origin of life on Earth maybe came from other place, but the question remains: how this life emerged? How it did began? How was the beginning of the life? It doesn't matter here, Mars, other planet. How it did emerge? How
yeah.
life comes from not nothing, but how life comes from chaos, basically.
Yeah. Chaos. Yes. Yeah.
I
Um,
think the same question about how life emerged, it might be connected with how consciousness emerged.
yes, yes,
I think from my philosophical perspective, maybe the same mechanism or similar mechanisms from chaos to a new kind of order. In this
yes,
kind, life. In this other case, consciousness. In other case, maybe uh, in Spanish, I always use an example with water. Water, chemically speaking, what is it? What is water from a chemical perspective? Hydrogen, right?
yeah,
Two hydrogen and one oxygen.
yeah,
But you see that water has some properties, right? You touch this water, for example, water is watery, so say. So you have this, right? Watery. It's water. Water is water, right? But now think about this. Hydrogen, oxygen, separately, oxygen. It reacts like this,
yeah.
only oxygen. It behaves like this, oxygen only.
No, of
I
course,
make a no. And
no,
hydrogen,
and no,
no.
oh,
So how the watery of water
mm,
emerge from the connection of these two elements? It's a kind of emergency property, right?
yes,
I think maybe the same logic for life, for consciousness, and now I'm talking as a philosopher, as you see. Maybe there is some kind of connection that we are not seeing yet, but
yes.
eventually might discover, and that will be an amazing discovery. Yes. What do you think about it?
Well, yeah, I was going to ask actually about. I was just going to pick up on what you were just saying there, how you've got to kind of because I don't really have that problem because I'm more just of a philosopher, really. Whether I'll change in the future, I don't know. But do you find it difficult to try and be in this field and be sort of a free thinker, but also at the same time having to stick to sort of because sometimes you have to say I'm saying this in my philosophical mode, I'm a philosopher now and I'm speaking, so is that quite difficult when you have to kind of always separate the two? Do you know what I mean?
They are not like separately per se. They maintain some connection always
Yeah,
because the background of science is always philosophy. Since the moment you think science study a reality,
yeah,
right? Okay,
yeah,
it assumes that reality is there, is out there, but that's a philosophical assumption. You see, because assuming reality is there, you can't prove it.
mm,
You
yes,
can't tell me you can touch it, you can smell it. It might be easily a dream or a
yes,
matrix, right?
yeah,
But the the assumption of there is a reality, and from there, science is doing its work. That assumption is from philosophy,
yes,
realism. You assume a reality. You will never can prove it with sufficient evidence because any evidence is at the end uh, again how you prove the evidence.
yeah,
Are you sure that this evidence exists? The assumption of reality is a philosophical matter, and because of it, science can make its work.
yes, yeah, that's
By
right.
the way, if science lacks for of philosophy, and then what is the narrative of it?
Mm,
What's the remember? Philosophy and science are born together.
yes,
Tales de Mileto from I don't know how it is in English, in Spanish. Tales de Mileto, Tales, the first philosopher, the same first scientist,
um,
the person who said that water is the origin of all
oh,
things. Tales,
Talos, I don't know.
Talos, yes, in English, Talos.
Yeah,
And well, because both share the pondering, making questions,
yeah,
critical thought. If you remove philosophy from science, you will lack of it. So it's necessary.
Yeah, I think that obviously maybe the politics have come into it as well, maybe, and maybe that's why some people feel like they have to kind of really separate those roles. Maybe you feel you don't have to as much, but some people seem to have to do that, you know, that sometimes they're speaking in one role and then
Yes,
philosophical
artificially,
and then
artificially you can do that.
Yeah,
But by nature, they are connected.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah,
But you never have to forget that they are connected. If you get only with the separation, you will lose perspective of forest.
yes.
And
Yeah,
you need the perspective of forest for dealing with real problems, complex problems, like the one we find in astrobioethics.
yes.
So
Yeah.
you need to make this kind of exercise of mind, thinking about we need this discipline separately. At the same time, we need it connected.
And do you just quickly going back to some of those questions I asked before, was what's your kind of opinion on the idea that there was that, because it's been found, I think that on Mars that the way that the geology is that there was water on Mars at one time. So what's your sort of opinion about that there was life on Mars at one time? Maybe it's now gone, maybe it's now long gone, but do you have a sort of a view on whether that could be true, this idea that, you know, Mars was more like Earth at one time? Do we know that now for certain, or is that still in the balance? Is it still unsure of that?
Well, I think that there is this work in progress, and if there was life before, we will have immediately to make a planetary park for Mars.
Yeah.
So any rover or human mission gets closer to this place. Maybe there was life on Mars in the past. We are not 100% sure yet, but in any case, if we find some astrobiological potential interest in some places in Mars, these places should be protected.
Yes.
Like we protect here some national forests on Earth.
And wouldn't finding even if it's just fossils or something, wouldn't finding evidence of, even if it's not alive anymore, that's still evidence of life, isn't it? So that would support.
Still important. Still because it can give us clues about how life was, how life began, and maybe clues thinking of panspermia, that it maybe is the first how you call it, your father before
Ancestors.
Yes, thank you. The first ancestor for us, the Luca.
Yeah.
I know Luca in English, last universal common ancestor. Maybe that's our Luca.
Yeah.
So important.
That, yeah. And I was just I remember when you sent me, I read the part of the book that you sent me that you had written, and I had a few questions about it. The part where you're talking about the astrobioethics, but the epistemological, astrotheological, and interplanetary issues. I found that really enjoyed that. And I just had a couple of questions about it, really, just to kind of, because I know we've been speaking for almost an hour now, so we can bring it to an end slowly. But I just had a question about the epistemology of astrobiology.
Yes.
The knowledge that you're working with, obviously, the validity of it is kind of shaky, would you say, at best, in terms of the actual. So when the data that you receive, maybe from I don't know, a rover or something like that, about the surface of Mars or something similar, what is the epistemology of that? What is the sort of the nature of that knowledge that you're receiving? Will it ever be
Well,
kind of a concrete knowledge of life? Do you know what I'm saying? Will it ever be? Because I think when we think about astrobiology and that one day someone's just going to come across some sort of fossil or something, or some type of animal or something, but that's not how it's going to take place, is it? And the knowledge that we have, I was just looking at, you know, some of the epistemological issues that you raised.
yeah. It's the process.
Yeah, can you just explain those a little bit more for people who aren't aware of the issues in the field? What are the main epistemological issues?
Yeah, basically the epistemological issue is the challenges we have as professionals, specialists from different perspectives, and the challenge is to work together in a common place, in a common object, and the process is the most important. How we are getting involved, how we connect my knowledge from social science to your knowledge from natural science, or inside the natural science, how they do connect. And yes, it's the process, the epistemological attribute with the astrobioethic, because you are thinking at the same time life, same time impact on society, impact on religion, impact on science itself, biology, chemistry, and epistemologically talking, it requires an interaction that you don't have usually in other fields, work fields.
Yes.
Yes, that's the major contribution from the epistemological transdisciplinarity.
Yes. Yes.
What it means is trans, connecting, involves going through,
Yes.
but making a common framework
Yes.
to deal with it. And that requires a big epistemological effort.
Yes.
Because in college, maybe you are used from a perspective, let's say, from psychology. You are a specialist with psychology and so on. But when you face these kind of complex problems, you will have to deal with other specialists.
Yes.
And work together a common framework.
And just to kind of as the last question really that I have for you, just as part of this conversation, and I by the way, I really hope that you'll actually come back, because I've got, you know, there's other questions that I have. And
oh yeah, there is a lot to talk about it.
Yeah, we can't
Maybe it will be, yeah, there's a lot of issues here. So, let me tell you that we have a book for next year. I'm working with this colleague from Harvard, and this Jensen and Dresen, and we have many co-authors also. Between them, there is this researcher, A.V. Loeb. Did you hear about it? A.V. Loeb. Yeah, he will be a co-author of our book. The name of this book is Extraterrestrial Intelligence, Societal and Academic and Social Implications.
Fantastic.
Next year.
Yeah, that's I'll definitely be wanting to have a read of that. Definitely. I suppose the final question that I have for you really is, so it's more of a personal one, I think, for you. If we go more back to your philosophical mind and sort of your personal ideas, if we do, obviously you have a passion of space and life on other planets, and a love for that, and emotions connected to that. So if in your lifetime we do, you know, find that life on other planets, that kind of evidence that you're kind of looking for, what will that feel like for you, do you think? How will that change you? I know we said earlier that maybe other people won't change and they'll carry on with their lives, but how will that change you, do you think? Your philosophical and religious views, do you think?
Well, that would be like the cherry on the cake for astrobiology.
Yeah.
Because after all these years, making this research about life in the universe from philosophy and from other sciences also for other colleagues, it will be like the cherry on the cake. Yes, I think that finding life in the universe is gonna be like finding the piece of the puzzle. We knew it was missing, but it was there. It was somewhere, but we knew it was there because logically, viewing this the puzzle, you know that the piece it must be there. Even if there is no there, it must be there. It's like they found the how this the name the God's particle I think they should call it or the Higgs
Higgs boson, yeah.
the yes. This boson
Yeah.
Higgs, they didn't have the evidence, direct evidence yet, for a very long time, and suddenly with the research they found it. They found the evidence.
Yeah.
Similar scenario for life in the universe. You don't have the evidence, direct evidence yet, but you know you have this.
Okay.
How you call it in when you feel it?
Like
a
a
hunch, right?
Yeah, like a hunch.
Yeah. You have the hunch that it's there.
Yes.
So right now it's more like a hunch.
Yeah.
We are gonna find it. We don't know when, how, where.
Yeah. Well,
but there is it. But that's my personal feeling. And when it's get done, well, I will be happy at the beginning. Yes, maybe I will get some call for interviews, and a reason for celebration. Yes.
Yeah. Well, keep me in mind when it does happen because I want to interview. I want to have the exclusive.
Yeah.
So.
Sure.
Okay. So I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I hope everyone else, I'm sure out there, will do when it gets published, when this video goes out there. And I just want to say a big thank you for you today, Octavio, for coming and telling us about your work and kind of just introducing yourself as well, because I hope you'll come back, and I'm sure we'll have many more conversations. So I'll just say a final thank you to everyone who's watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. So see you later, everybody.